All right. Hello and welcome back to another Mr. Pisto Plays Magic the Gathering Arena Brawl. Today we have SIMIC with Kinnan, Bonder, Prodigy. I know this is a very common commander in these colors, but I wanted to play it and I think it's fun. I think it's one of the more competitive decks in the format, and it is an annoying deck to play against because of what it can do. So for 2 mana, you get a 2/2 human druid. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent can produce. And for 7 mana, you can look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Start with 2 columns of ramp. So Gilded Goose, your typical 1-drop in green. It's an 0/2 flyer that comes in with a food token. Pay a green and a colorless, tap it to create a food token, and you can tap it and sacrifice a food token to add a mana of any color to your mana pool. Illusion or Elysian Caryatid, 2 mana 1/1, adds a 1 color of any mana to your mana pool. Control a creature with power greater than 4. Add 2 mana of any color instead. Mara Leaf Pixie, it's a 2/2 flyer that you can add a green or a blue. Arcane Signet adds a green or a blue in this deck for 2 mana. Land War Visionary, you can add a green for 3 and 2/2, but it also draws a card when it enters the battlefield. Palladium Mirror is a 3 mana 2/2 that adds 2 mana, so with Kinnan out it adds 3. Skyclave Relic is a 3 mana tap to add 1 mana of any color. It has indestructible, and if you kick it for 3, you get 2 more of them tapped. So for 6 mana, you get 3 of these indestructible mana rocks. Then we have a Shaya of the Wild, Soul of the Wild. Power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. Non-token creatures you control are forests, which is actually pretty important. It makes it so that anything that says non-land permanent can't target your creatures anymore because they're lands unless they're a token, and they can tap to add mana to their mana pool, but they are affected by summoning sickness though. Then we have the Tangled Florahedron. It's a land. If you need a land, it's a 2 mana 1/1 that taps for green. You need a mana accelerant. Midnight Clock is a 3 mana taps for a blue artifact, or you can pay a blue and 2 colorless to put in a midnight or an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, another one of those counters goes on, and then when the 12th counter, so when the clock hits midnight, you shuffle your graveyard and hand into your library and then draw 7 new cards and exile the Midnight Clock. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, is I would call it pseudo ramp, because if you don't have an extra land in your hand, it doesn't really do much. It draws you a card, gains 3 life. It's a 3 mana 6/6, but when it enters a battlefield, sack it unless it escaped. And this escape cost is 2 green and 2 blue and 5 cards, exiling 5 cards from your library, or your graveyard, I should say. And when it enters a battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life, so the life gain is nice. Draw a card and can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Migratory Greathorn, it is a 4 mana 3/4 base, or you can mutate it for a green and 2 colorless, which means you can basically put it over or under a non-human creature, and you get to do its ability, which in this case is search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Solemn Simulacrum, good old friend here. He's going to be in pretty much every single deck until it rotates. When Solemn enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. And when Solemn dies, you may draw a card. It's a 2/2 for 4. Beanstalk Giant, you can use Fertile Footsteps as a green and 2 colorless for its adventure. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Key point for this one is it doesn't come in tapped. That's pretty cool. And its regular side is a 7 mana Star, where power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you can. The Great Henge for 9 mana, but its spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You can tap it to add 2 green, plus also gain 2 life. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on that creature and draw a card. So it's a card draw engine, it's an accelerant, and you can power it out pretty quick. If you're liking the video, before we get into some non-creature spells, consider liking and subscribing and hitting the notification button. Alright, on to some drawing. Confounding Conundrum is an enchantment for 2 mana. It draws you a card, so it replaces itself. And effectively, it makes it so that your opponents can only play 1 land a turn. Whenever land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand. Deliberate, scry 2, draw a card. Omen of the Sea, here again, scry 2, draw a card, but it is an enchantment that has this another ability of pay a blue and 2 colorless, sacrifice it to scry 2. Garrick's Uprising, because we're playing some big fatties, I thought giving them all trample would be beneficial. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters a battlefield under your control, draw a card, and when it enters a battlefield, if you had a creature with power 4 or greater, you also draw a card. Sublime Epiphany, it's in this pile because it does draw you a card, but it also counters a spell, counters an activated or triggered ability, returns target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, create a token that's a copy of a creature you control. So there's big fatties in the deck, so I thought Sublime Epiphany would be a really good addition. Thassa's Intervention, it draws cards. You look at the top X cards in your library, put 2 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom. Or you can counter target spell unless it's called controller pays X twice. Then we're into some of the big creature payoffs, or the big creature payoffs in the deck. Ancient Green Warden, and play lands from your graveyard is a 6 mana 5/7 with reach. Land into the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to be triggered. That ability triggers an additional time. What plays with our Shoot Swarm. That's kind of like a little combo there. Kolga, the Titan Ape, is a 6 mana 7/6. And when Kolga, the Titan Ape, enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 other target creature you don't control. When it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. And you can pay a green and a colorless to return a human to its you control to your hand. Kolga gains indestructible until the end of turn, so you can return our commander to our hand to give Kolga indestructible. Then we have the Pursued Whale. I thought this was a fun card to try and play. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a 1/1 red pirate creature token with this creature can't block, and creatures you control attack each combat if able. So you're forcing your opponent's creatures to attack into your big fatties. And spells your opponents cast that target Pursued Whale cost 3 more to cast. So it's a tough creature to deal with, and it makes it so that they have to attack into your big fatties. Then we have the Rampaging Brontodon as a 7 mana 7/7, and when it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn for each land you control. It also has trample. We have the Thorn Mammoth, has trample, is a 6/6 for 7. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Thorn Mammoth fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So it basically just ping, 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 ping as your creatures enter the battlefield. Then we have the Nyx Bloom Ancient. It is a 7 mana 5/5. Here again, it has trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. So it's a banger combination with Kinnan, and it just makes you go off. Then we have some other spells and other creatures. We have Heroic Intervention, basically blue counterspell or green counterspell, making your permanents hexproof and indestructible. Once upon a time, to find that pesky mana that you may only have one of at the beginning of the game. If this spell is the first spell you cast this game, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or a land. Usually play it early, hopefully, so it's almost always a land. Make it so you can hit those land drops. Put them in your hand, with the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. We have Ram Through. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control had trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. Kalani Ambush is a land spell. Target creature you control fights another target creature you don't, or it can come into play as a land. Vivian Monster's Advocate, because we're playing so many big creatures, and if we get to hard cast those big creatures, we can go find something else. So it's a 5 mana, 3 loyalty planeswalker. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast creature spells off the top of your library. Its +1 is to create a 3/3 green beast creature token with vigilance, reach, or trample, a counter. And its -2 is when you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So it's like creature finding. Then we have, the fun Ugin. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. 8 mana, 7 loyalty planeswalker. +2, it deals 3 damage to target any target. -X, you can exile each permanent with converted mana cost X or less that's more than one or more colors. And -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, put 7 permanents from your hand onto the battlefield. More often than not, people scoop when you see the card. Primal Might, because we're making so much mana, a big fight spell I thought would be good. Target creature you control gets +X until end of turn, then it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Into the kind of creaturey other creatures, we have Shoe Swarm. I talked about it before. Plays well with Ancient Green Warden, and we're gonna be dropping lands, so it's usually played on 5. Play a land on 6, and the swarm begins. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Shoot Swarm instead. Annoying card, goes sideways, helps block, and can just overwhelm. Gem Razor, another mutate card, is a 4 mana 4/4 base stats with reach and trample. But for green colorless, you can mutate it onto a creature. And whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. I've always wanted to try Parcel Beast. I think it should be good. I just haven't never put it into a deck. I haven't really been playing much SIMIC. It is a 2 or 4 mana 2/4. That's its base stats. You can mutate it for a blue and a green. You can pay 1 to tap to look at the top card of your library. The land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. I should have probably put it in the rampy start, but if it's not, you put that card into your hand. So it's like 1 mana draw a card, which is, I think, very powerful. There's no reason why this card shouldn't be played more. Ferocious Great Shark, because we're going to be holding up mana for Kinnan. I thought having something that dealt with a creature or an artifact would be a good thing. We might be able to play more counter spells and instants in the deck, but where we're at. For lands, we have 7 islands. We're going to go down to 9 forests. I'm going to put Castle Garenbrig in here. We're going to go down to 6 because we're going to put the blue castle. Do that right now. I want Castle Vantress. And I want Castle, where are you? Castle Garenbrig. There we go. So we got Castle Vantress, 6 islands, Castle Garenbrig, 9 forests, Temple of Mystery, Thornwood Falls, Command Tower, Fabled Passage, and we're gonna get a colorless land. We want where are you? This one. I'm gonna force for that. And I want to play Bonder's Enclave because you get to draw a card. We got lots of 5 power and up creatures. All right, that is Kinnan, MTG Arena Brawl. Thank you for watching this deck tech. If you want to see some gameplay, down in the description there'll be a link to the gameplay video, or it'll be in the card up at the top of the screen. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Take care. Happy holidays. Bye for now.